Tiptoe around with face of a stranger, quiet observer, never get too close. I see the world, but it's through this window. Another side to see, I'm ready to know. Not every story's written on a sleeve. Some stories take digging deep. Eyes wide open, words unspoken. Where are you going, darling? Where have you been? Stories to tell, emotions we felt, good and the bad in the hands we've been dealt. I wanna know why, I wanna know why you're the way you are. He's from the city, she's from the south. Two different chapters told miles out. That back row living in his White House. So many stories that I need to know. Not every story's written on a sleeve. Some stories take digging deep. Eyes wide open, words unspoken. Where are you going, darling? Where have you been? Stories to tell, emotions we felt, good and the bad in the hands we've been dealt. I wanna know why, I wanna know why you're the way you are. So many stories right in front of me. Some people climb to heights I've never seen. Too many falling down off their feet. These stories take digging deep. Eyes wide open, words unspoken. Where are you going, darling? Where have you been? Stories to tell, emotions we felt, good and the bad in the hands we've been dealt. I wanna know why, I wanna know why you're the way you are. Why you're the way you are. Why you're the way you are. Tiptoe around with face of a stranger, quiet observer, never get too close. I see the world, but it's through this window. Another side to see, I'm ready to know. Not every story's written on a sleeve. Some stories take digging deep. Eyes wide open, words unspoken. Where are you going, darling? Where have you been? Stories to tell, emotions we felt, good and the bad in the hands we've
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a Silverline show on Tuesday. I am your host, Tim TK, and we are hosted by we're hosted by me. It's been a long day. It's the first after 3-day weekend. I was in the office for like 30 minutes more than I needed to be. So I am joined as always by immediately to my compass north, Aaron Humphrey.
Which technically really is compass north because I'm actually north of you.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, I'm the artist on with Silverline Fire Rush, upcoming obsoletes, and I did a cool cover for our upcoming Kickstarter for Bear. And so I'm excited to see that come to fruition.
Bay's the Silverline red label release of it.
So how you know the bear?
That's Bar.
Oh,
Bear.
Yeah.
It's Bear.
Okay.
I'm only close to that because I grew up with
Y'all are too far north of the Mason-Dixon to say that title.
You know, I'm just closely related to it because we had a friend growing up whose nickname was Bear, but Behr, just Burr.
Burr.
And we also have one Mr. Quentin Bedwell.
Quentin Bedwell in the great state of Texas. I am currently working on the third book of Trumps and also some yet to be announced titles at Silverline. Also have a game on Game Crafter, Relic Quest, which is in open beta. You're welcome to get it. The game is done. It's solid. Just has, some things left to do with it. It's going to have some expansions and all that type of stuff. So that's it.
Alrighty.
What are we talking about tonight, Mr. Tim?
Well, first I will let people know where they can have recognized my name before. Wolf Hunter.
Oh, yeah.
It's a book. Coming up later this year, and other than that, associate editor at Silverline and manager of the blog. And tonight we will be talking about patriotic heroes, as is, I guess, the mood with the holiday this last weekend. And of course, because we love our international family, we'll include all of the flagged captains across many a nation. And we will then step into our second hour talking a little bit about the craft of comic making, talking about tempo, pacing, finding your speed, and all that. Before we get into any of that, however, we do need to pay some bills. And to do that, we can thank our sponsors at History Camp America, July 10th, which is 4 days from now. They're going to be hosting a online history camp where for free you can attend lectures given by historians on different subject matters, persons, locations, events. They also have a weekly newsletter called History List, where they talk about said historical subjects every week, as well as Daytona Beach Comic Convention, DaytonaBeachComicConvention.com. You can find tickets, dates, information on pricing, anything like that. This is going to be your go-to location for all things comics and collectibles in the Daytona Beach area. Alrighty. And if anyone needs to stretch their ears or buy some body jewelry, I have a 10% off coupon code for Urban Body Jewelers. It's not a sponsorship, I just have one.
Don't ask me why I have that.
Yes. So, like I said, we're going to be talking about our patriotic heroes. And, of course, we have the obvious one that comes to mind, not just with Silverline's ties to Marvel in the past, but also with the success of the MCU. One, Mr. Captain America. I guess 2 or 3 Mr. Captain America. Several Mr. Captain America. When you get into the deep comics, there's been a lot. We also have For our friends across the seas, we have a Captain Britain, and to the north, an indie title, we have Captain Canuck. Yeah, which has
That's a long time, hasn't it?
it's been around for a while. Yeah, yeah.
It's not something new. It's something that I used to see on and off, but I think in Canada it was a pretty.
It was a big time for a while, and then it just recently got resurrected again after Canadian publishing has been in a weird place for a while, but it got resurrected again. So, yeah. What's up, guys? Good to see and hear you. Good to see you, Mr. Tommy Flormonti, in the Facebook chat. Thank you for stopping in.
Yeah, Mr. Tommy. Mr. Captain Kablam.
Captain Kablam.
Yes.
So I always wondered why it was always captain. I mean, if you were thinking of like military ranks, like wouldn't it be like Admiral America?
Admiral America. Well, I believe that
Four-star General America.
Yeah, I believe the idea comes from the fact that it's not. Yeah, there's exceptions to it, but the highest ranking officer rank that readily deploys on field operations is a captain.
Okay.
Yeah, so you have your lieutenants, which will handle platoons, and so that captains will lead brigades on field mission, but then generals will do like entire army decisions. But yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I just always wonder why it was like, captain.
Yeah.
I'm always curious how captain. I mean, I guess I kind of understand a little bit about the shield, but it was such a. I mean, that sort of. It was such a weird weapon that's the only thing he had, and I always thought like, what the thought process went into that, like, shield and gun, or because he was in World War II, so he used a gun.
Yeah, I think
that kind of made sense because he could block the bullets.
Yeah, I think I of course I wasn't there in the room, but I think the idea coming with him being pretty much being made as like anti-Nazi propaganda was they didn't want to stoop him down to the level of the Nazis, the bad guys. So like, well, we'll give him a defensive weapon, but he's just so good that he can beat people with it.
That's right. That's what I kind of figured. That
Yeah.
sort of, but like with winning freedom sort of thing. Yeah, because it was weird. He was never able to throw the shield till it became round.
Mm-hmm.
And he was able to throw it like a frisbee.
Yeah. I would love to see him just like impale someone though with the triangle tipped shield, just launch a guy into a wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they did that.
Stick the shield in somebody's forehead. Whoa.
Yep.
Stick.
They did that in was it the first Lord of the Rings movie? When he threw shield and stuff. Like I wonder if he ever. I mean, I'm sure he never did that in the comic, but I'm sure he could.
Yeah.
Something like. It's funny because later on, I mean, when he originally started, I don't think he had a gun, and later on,
He got a gun for a little bit, but then they decided to not again.
just kind of gave him the shield.
Yeah. Yeah.
Captain Britain, he was just supposed to be like a Superman type character, right?
Kinda, yeah. He's
Strong and
he's strong, super endurable, and he can bound, but he can't fly. He also, I think he wields Excalibur, or is that just a one-time arc?
That would seem like
but
you would think that's something they would do eventually.
yeah. But he also is part of the Captain Britain Corps, which is a weird thing they did where the Captain Britons oversee the multiverse and keep all the dimensions in check by deploying Captain Britons to dimensions in trouble or whatever. So you got a bit of that in Into the Spider-Verse, where the different Spider-Mans had to rely on the Captain Britain Corps for getting around.
Yeah. That and he couldn't sell a book.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
His Silverline was not great, and then they put him in Excalibur, and then he started popping up after that. That seems to be the Marvel thing, though, is if someone's not selling, you just put them with the X-Men, and they start selling again.
Yeah. Well, that used to be the thing with the Avengers, right? They would add somebody to the Avengers, get people to reading them, watching them on there, and then if they did pretty well, then they'd try to move them off to their own title,
Yep.
Yeah,
something like that.
they did that a lot. I was always thought it was weird that the Beast was an Avenger for a while, but he started as an X-Men that went to an Avenger,
Mm-hmm.
and I wonder if that was just to make the X-Men a little more popular. Because I mean, when the X-Men first came out, they didn't do well.
Yeah.
It wasn't flagging, and not until they gave it to Claremont, and then they basically told Claremont like, do whatever you want, we don't care.
Mm-hmm.
But I was always weird that none of the. Well, I guess Wolverine
Yeah.
was.
Beast.
But the only. Yeah, Beast was in it for a long time.
Beast almost made more sense as an Avenger for me than Wolverine, because Beast was always about coexistence and prospering through advancement, whereas Wolverine is the I don't care, let me stab him.
Yeah, I never liked. Did you guys ever like when Spider-Man was part of the Avengers? I never.
Hit or miss. I didn't read too much of that.
I never actually saw it. I just because I never bought Avengers. I didn't even. I mean, I would get big event books with everybody, and the Avengers were in there, but I never bought like Avengers. I have a few copies, but
Yeah.
well after the fact, and they're incomplete runs.
Mm-hmm.
I think my favorite Avengers, and this is why I kind of fell in love with Captain America, bringing it back to patriotism, was the Ultimate storyline by Mark Miller.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah, that's when I actually first really discovered, hey, this is pretty neat. The Avengers.
Yeah. And I went back and read George Perez's run after that. I really liked that one.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, that was my first kind of introduction. Because the Avengers, I mean, I think at the time I was doing the West Coast Avengers was like Hawkeye. I don't know. I was more in the X-Men, and so I thought Mark Miller, and that's them holding Mark Miller back until he took off with Wanted and everything else. But I did like the way he wrote Captain America. It's this sort of like no nonsense military,
Mm-hmm.
which I always saw him.
Yeah.
And so that was what I read. Like, where he's, I don't know, the scene where he's like, they got the Hulk and Bruce Banner, and he like kicks Bruce Banner in the face or whatever, even though he's defeated, just because it's, to teach him a lesson or whatever. That was always my Captain America. It was one where I always thought he was such a weird, I've always been attracted to very weird, unique looking heroes like Captain America, Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
Something like I've never seen anything like this. This looks. Superman, it's okay. Be typical superhero, but Captain America had a shield, and the Ultimates really kind of cemented my like for that character.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I mean, you can see the Marvel movies have the Avengers template is really heavily influenced by those Ultimate run.
Yes. Yeah.
They just took more the hardcore.
Yep.
Heroes. Yeah.
So are you speaking of unique looks though on Captain America? So are you a fan of the wings just sort of being decals, or the actual tiny little dove wings?
I never, I like them as. I remember when every time I draw pictures, I kind of liked the wings. I thought they were kind of a weird accent.
Yeah.
It was always weird that the Submariner had the same things on his ankles, but then
I never got into though. That's what I was gonna say. I never got into the wings on his head. Although I really liked his design, all except for that. Just kind of one of those things that, I'll take it.
Mm-hmm.
But I always liked Namor.
Yeah.
yeah,
But the wings on the ankles. There's just with me when I look at these characters, and especially drawing them, everything is. I can make everything cool all the way down to the wings, and then it's just.
yeah.
I don't know. He becomes a tooth fairy when I get down to the ankles.
There
That's
was one you kind of bend around the head, but I have to admit, I think I do like the painted.
yeah.
Do they even have the wings on his helmet in the new movies, or did they get rid of that altogether?
I
No,
believe,
they don't have them in the movies.
Yeah,
they
no-
just they have decals.
yeah. There's
Kind of.
it looks kind of like and more looks more like it's kind of like a plating over his temple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
'Cause I remember kind of, and they had the American flag or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So my question, since you like, asked if you like the wings, what did you guys like it better when he had the chainmail, or not?
Well, this is a funny thing. I could never figure out what that was. And I just kind of mentally went with its scale mail,
Yeah.
but
I
he
thought-
didn't always have it, and it didn't look like scale mail.
Hmm.
So I just figured, whatever. I don't really know what's going on here, but
You guys like?
I guess it
since-
still looks cool. It gives it texture.
Yeah, it's an interesting
Yeah.
design, but it kind of got too muddied, just in terms of like what the deal's on. But then also from like as a writer, from a practical standpoint, like, I mean, I give dudes like, it's like, hey, give this guy like 50-foot pauldrons, but scale mail is there's a reason it hasn't been used for like 100 years before World War One. So
Yeah.
when you have someone who is a no-nonsense military man, you're like, I'm just gonna put on this thing from the Dark Ages.
It always seems
Right.
to be super tough. That was like, I remember when was in New 52, they gave Superman like armor.
Yeah.
And but it was like the chainmail. I always took it that they were trying to push him more like he's a heroic and like
Yeah.
character with the shield and the chainmail.
Mm-hmm.
It was weird because he only had the chainmail up here. But
Yeah.
then they made his boots. I mean, the boots, the classic knight boots that come up and fold over. So they almost had this sort of weird American knight
Yeah.
thing. That's what I kind of took it as.
I never looked at it that way, but now that you say it,
That's because the boots and the gloves.
totally works.
Yeah.
It seems like kind of a suit of armor they were going for. And that kind of works. I mean, I've seen some really cool pictures that people have done with the chainmail that I think looks really cool.
Mhm.
I mean, because it looks different. But I think drawing it in like panel to panel, yeah, that would be annoying.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, but it just, to me, whenever they draw out each one, I've seen some people do it and it looks okay. But when you get too much, I don't know what it is, but for me, it's a little bit of overkill. Like, it takes away from it a little bit when they really completely go in and do every little scale in the
Mhm.
scale mail.
Yeah.
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 Well, it's one area because especially in this costume, you got this very busy area up here,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's not busy other places. So it's almost kind of this weird.
Yeah.
I can't remember who it is, but they not only do every scale in the scale mail, but they even have like a little bit of depth to every scale. Like you can see
Sheesh.
the edge of. I'm like, no way, man.
Yeah.
Nope.
So yeah, it's funny. I was thinking today, Captain Britain had, the facsimile of the British flag on there. But
Yes.
do you remember a character in the Marvel Universe that basically had the Union Jack flag? Was he just called Union Jack? I think he was a villain. He
I
was
think it
supposed
might
to
be. I think it might just be Union Jack.
Now I'm thinking, 'cause I remember as a character, he had this, like, sort of, like, mask. Yeah, encyclopedia. I think he's just called Union Jack. I think he was an assassin.
Yeah. I'll probably just Google it faster than this, but
Did he have predominantly white?
No, he was. Yeah, now I'm just gonna look him up.
yeah.
He was
Yes,
called-
Union Jack. He just had the flag on his chest.
Yeah, and he
Yeah.
had like a knife, like a sort of knife and a gun. And I think he was either supposed to be an assassin or a mercenary or something. I think he was
Yes.
supposed to be a bad guy. if I'm
It's
not mistaken.
3 fictional superheroes appearing in the comics. So he's been 3 people. It's the main one is Joseph Chapman. He's your 616. Union
Okay.
Jack. Yeah.
I always thought that character was cool looking. I remember a few times they did in one of the I think it was the X-Men comic, and anybody watching this if I'm wrong, but there was a woman who was like a Captain Israel or something like that, and she had the Star of David on her chest and was like a white suit. I remember that was kind of cool.
All right. So Union Jack actually worked with the Knights of the Pendragon and then Shield. So he's actually a hero.
Okay, so he is a hero. I
Yep.
couldn't remember because I
Yes.
couldn't remember if he was like a mercenary for hire, kind of like a Deathstroke character.
No, it looks
Okay.
like he was he was one of the heroes that Cap picked up during his like mid-career travels, and so he worked with Shield during the weird Arabian Night run, and then he also did stuff during the Skrull invasion.
What do you okay? Just because of some odd reason, what is the history of the Union Jack flag? Do you guys know? Is that supposed to be sort of like an equivalent version of our rebel flag?
Well, if he was here, he would probably be able to tell you.
Yes.
But
Ooh, Roland?
And,
it's the flag of what is it? Wales,
it's Wales, England, and
Scotland.
Scotland, yeah, I believe. Because when they formed the English Commonwealth, those were the big two players, and then they use that to signify all of the British Empire, while each country in the empire maintained its individual flag.
And it's under a cross.
Yep.
So it's
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I knew there was something. I knew the Union Jack had a sort of was a negative connotation or historical word or something considered like they don't really.
It's yeah, they don't really use it too much because of the strong imperialist overtones with the rest of the world being like, hey, we don't belong to that anymore.
Yeah, that's what I remember. I remember it's a flag that's not looked on fondly. It had a really cool design though.
Yeah.
I remember and the Union Jack. I mean, it just looked cool on him.
Yeah.
He had like the black or blue costume with the
Yeah.
Union.
It got stopped. It got dropped from use after World War II.
Was that what it was? Okay.
Being the Empire broke apart essentially, and so he still have the English Commonwealth. So they used Union Jack at the Commonwealth Games, but because they don't have the same defensive alliance, it's not really used in much parlance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I knew there was some sort of historical significance on there.
Mm-hmm.
So I just didn't know what it was. I just thought it was a cool. Of course, me. I remember when I was a kid, I used to like choose my favorite football team, whoever had the coolest looking helmets,
Yep.
because I didn't know.
Yes.
we started with the captains. What other captains are there? There's Captain Britain. There's Captain America. What is the Russian guy?
It's who was it?
Wasn't there a guy called the Red Tornado? It's a DC, but there's another guy.
He's actually going to be in the
In the Black Widow movie.
Red Guardian. Yeah, he's he started out as kind of a villain just because Cold War comics, the Russians are always the bad guys, but they've now kind of teamed him up. So Red Guardian and the Avengers work a lot together because he leads sort of like the Russian side of the Avengers. So it's him, Black Widow, a couple others. He was also in
Another captain. There was, I mean, you had. I guess he was kind of a patriotic. Who was the Japanese? Was it Sunfire? He was part of the X-Men. Sunfire. He would fight with the X-Men sometimes. He had a very unique. Yeah.
It's on fire.
Oh yeah. He had that. Yeah, they had the.
The Japanese flag on him.
Yes.
It was red with the white stripes that kind of signify the sunrise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think he was kind of a patriotic hero.
He was, and he's also a really cool take on a hero. 'Cause his main focus is being like a history teacher. He's like, it's like a hero on the side, but my main focus is the kids.
Totally cool. That's right. I remember the X-Men, and there was and I'm not remembering. There was a woman.
Until it's test time, and then it's grading papers. That better be his super ability, because I was a teacher, and that would be kind of hard.
Yeah. But yeah, the main big Russian bad guy now is Omega Red, the mutant with the tentacles coming out of his hands.
Yep. It's like a $40 Marvel Legends figure right there.
Yeah.
What am I saying? 40? It's 40 or 50.
This was there was in one of the X-Men comics, there was this Israel superhero. She was a woman. She had like this cape that was almost made of fur. She was really cool. It was a really cool design. And I remember she wasn't in. Is that her?
I
She
don't
was,
think.
yeah, she was, yeah, Sabra. That's what's her name, Sabra. She was an Israel superhero. And I don't know if it's patriotic, but I remember her. And they had a few variations where they would bring her back for certain comics. I always thought she was a cool. I don't know what her powers were, but if you look her up, Sabra.
You have to get Sabra hummus, which is very big over here.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, I wonder who created her.
Yeah, I don't know.
Created,
It's, remember, they kind of updated her a little bit.
Sal Buscema and Bill Montlow.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there was some cool. Her costume was just white and blue, but she had like
Yeah.
this.
Star David on her chest, yeah.
David. Yeah.
I have
Wait,
never
what is
seen this
that?
character. I'm gonna have to go into my encyclopedia or Google.
Yeah, every once in a while there was an X-Men comic. No, it wasn't X-Men. It was I actually, besides the X-Men, the other superhero comic I read was the original New Warriors.
Mm.
And I think she came in one of the adventures in there. She was in one of the New Warriors comics. That's where I saw her. And so, but I remember her just being kind of a cool looking character. I've always been attracted to character costumes that have very stark colors, like the blue and white.
Yeah.
Or like Miss Marvel, the one, the African American one had the white and black. Like just very that stark contrast.
Mhm.
I always thought they were very cool. Her name is like Monica.
Monica
something.
Rambeau? Yeah.
Rambo.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she was always my favorite Captain Marvel, just because I thought she looked cool. Wasn't it
Yeah.
actually like her powers like light based? Like she could turn into like a photon of light and something.
Yeah,
Yes.
she's making her way into the
Yes.
MCU.
And her
Yeah.
her daughter is Photon, so yeah. And we got that
Yeah.
in WandaVision.
I think that's cool. I'm excited. I'd be excited to see what she looks in the movies.
Yeah.
Just if they put that costume at all, because I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm
See.
trying to think of any other patriotic superheroes. Like I'm even trying to think of like Captain Canuck. He's been around on and off for years.
Yep.
Eh?
8.
Captain Connect, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. His first appearance in 1975, and then it got resurrected back in 2014 for a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. You said he's coming back.
He's been around. He came back for a little bit. So he did a run 1975 until a bit, and then 2004 he had another run, and 2014 he had another run.
Wasn't there a Canadian hero like this in the Marvel with Alpha Flight that looked like this? And he looked like
maybe.
a captain. But he had the same sort of color variations.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. It's yes, it's
It wasn't that, and he was called something else because that's what he reminds me of. Which I mean, it's just
just Guardian. Yeah, he is. Yeah. So
Well, didn't they have Wolverine as being a Canadian at one time or something? I
Yes.
Uh,
can't remember.
he originally was part of Alpha Flight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's originally he's a Canadian immigrant. He was originally a part of Outflight, and then he came down to the United States. I think that whole thing where Xavier helped him get his citizenship.
Yeah.
I just remember being super confused when I saw the Super Friends, or not the Super Friends, Spider-Man and his amazing friends, Iceman and Firestar, and they had the X-Men on there, and they were kind of using it to try to get the X-Men way back in that day.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
on show, but he was on there and he was so cool, but I was really confused because he had like this really deep accent, like he was from Britain.
Oh,
I don't know if anybody's seen this episode, but they were fighting the Juggernaut, and he sounded like he was British.
They also did the same thing when they tried to launch the X-Men cartoon. There was a pilot cartoon they did called the Pride of Kitty. Kitty Pryde joins it, and you can find it. It's really well done. I mean, the cartoon was like just as far as the animation was like super really cool, and it was like the classic X-Men. But in that, everybody said it's like, yeah, but Wolverine has this really weird Australian accent.
yep.
Yeah, that's it. It may have
Yeah.
been. It's been years because it was like a Saturday morning. You know, these kids nowadays are so spoiled. I had to wait till Saturday, to see cartoons. I get to see them all the time.
24
Get
hours.
off my lawn! I sound like an old guy, but for real.
Yeah. So yeah, I remember. Yeah, because they did have the Guardian, who was like an alpha. I'm always surprised that out of all the superhero teams, like I've always been surprised the Marvel Cinematic Universe hasn't brought an Alpha Flight. 'Cause I
Yeah.
always thought they would. You mean I don't know. It's that they were. I mean I don't even know if they're still around. But yeah,
They
I remember reading that the guy who created Wolverine created him as a joke. It was supposed to be like somebody challenged him to make like, I want you to make like a really popular Canadian superhero, and so he made up the Wolverine character as a sort of, and it just kind of took off. But it was like supposed to be sort of like a challenge that he made that, and apparently they said the claws were never supposed to be in his hands. They were originally created to be part of a costume that he could just take on and off. And then it was like later on when they started thinking of his powers, they thought, wouldn't it be kind of cool and a little horrific if they came out of his hands and stuff. It was kind of interesting reading the history of that character, how they made it.
I wonder how much they thought through his healing factor, because, man.
It gets intense.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's intense now for sure.
Yeah.
But
the original healing factor, when I read Claremont's, it was never as powerful as it is now. I mean, I remember, and he did explain it in one scene. It was like the fall of the mutants, and like Wolverine was like in a building healing from a gunshot wound, and he said in there like it takes me about an hour to heal from.
You know what? I think I remember this.
Yeah.
And I remember him saying something like something that would make anybody else be pushing up daisies would take him a few days or something, a few weeks. I can't remember.
Now they made it that it's almost instantaneous.
Yeah, now it's like he can walk through fire and.
Right.
Yeah.
Like when they had the one where they like killed him and like he grew back from one cell. I think one of the X-Men.
Or when Magneto crushed his skeleton.
Yeah. He was not supposed to be completely invulnerable. He just had the healing, factor, and it was supposed to be because it took time to heal, and that's why I thought, okay, so he has his limitations, but now they've made it that he's just pretty.
He's like, I'm tired of dealing with this. Crush.
Yeah. Because they were talking about like, I think they even, I mean, that was one thing I thought was kind of cool about the Logan movie was that they actually showed in the movie that he, after so many years of extending those claws, he's developed scar tissue around that area, which I thought was a really cool idea. So they can, if he did this, even with this healing factor, get re-healing over and over again, would develop some sort of scar tissue.
Yeah.
I thought that was a cool idea. But yeah, he was that was a limitation, and I kind of like, I did not like it when they were like, well, yeah, he's destroyed and he came back from one cell, and I'm like, no, that's stupid. Because I mean, he was supposed to be. I remember in the comics it said the only way you can technically really kill him was to break his neck, if you could actually break the adamantium, or the spine. But that's the only way you can kill him. I remember them saying that too.
Well, I think the only thing that could kill him is a long run of nobody buying his comic, and that's the only thing that's really gonna kill him.
Yeah. Well, that's when they brought in fellow Oregonian Ben Piercy, and they made him. I think Comic Chron clocked him as being the new run of Wolverine was the best-selling comic for 3 months running.
The newest, they did a new Wolverine comic, you mean?
Yeah, they just didn't know what they canned it for a while, and then they brought on Ben Piercy. He's the guy who saved Green Arrow, and they're like, he's also doing X-Force now.
Well, not that I'm an aficionado or anything, but I can't really think of a game or an important publication, like besides the regular books, that he wasn't in, where there were other people. Like, I've got Marvel Ultimate Alliance from years ago, and he's all up through there.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got their all-stars, but, I mean, he's always in everything.
Yep.
It seems. And they really got...
with the X-Men, I was one of those people that I remember when he brought out his own series. I never got into it. I just liked him with the X-Men team. I don't know why either, because
Yeah.
he's a cool character. It just
Well,
I
I think he works best with other people too,
Yeah.
because you know, if you don't have that contrast, his gruff and grittiness upside of some upstanding, you know, cheerleaders,
Hmm.
you know, that just want to do good and all that, you know, it's just not as effective, you know.
Yeah.
He has to have other characters to bounce that out off of.
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's why he did so well with like the Scott Summers
Yeah.
character.
Yeah.
Um,
That was the dynamic was him and Scott Summers, where Wolverine was, you know, I do what's best for me and my friends. Everyone else can kind of screw off. Where Scott is, you know, for the good of all mutants. And then they kind of flipped it, where Scott took a more hardline stance, and Wolverine's like, "Hey, man, hey, bub, that's kind of a lot."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. There's a part of me like my favorite X-Men were Nightcrawler and Colossus. I mean, I liked Wolverine, but I think I was like some people. I was like, I'm kind of sick of seeing his face.
Yeah,
Okay.
they had an interesting chemistry,
Yeah.
I think.
That it's funny.
They weren't very patriotic.
Yeah. But I remember there was a Captain Britain scene that I remember. I had this How to Make Comic book, old hardback. I think it was called like How to Make Comics. And he showed one panel of like Captain Britain walking in a door. He was supposed to visit somebody, tell them about somebody had died or whatever. I think it was Alan Davis who drew it. I'm not completely sure. But I remember the one thing that was really cool about that was like Captain Britain was supposed to be like 7 or 8 feet tall. And so he was this gargantuan guy
Yeah.
that was like kind of like had to kneel down to get in the door. And I remember that after seeing that, I'm like, well, that made that character even more interesting. I'm not going to see if I can even find it because it was kind of a famous panel.
Yeah.
And I just want to see if Alan Davis is the one who actually drew it, if I'm thinking. Yeah, he did a lot of. I always thought Captain Britain was kind of a cool looking character, just visually.
Yeah. It's. I feel like they kind of. They came into it with the advantage of having already done Captain America and redone his design so many times they knew what they're going for when they want.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, also, if you give anyone a half mask, they're immediately cooler.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, he had a character called Pendragon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there
That
was. Yeah, then there's a whole like Knights of the Pendragon supergroup, which included Union Jack.
Okay. Because I'm seeing on here they're showing Excalibur, which is where he really kind of popularity.
Yep.
That's what kind of launched him. In Nightcrawler. It was such a weird team because I remember when that book came out, it was like mutants and then non-mutants.
Yeah, it was a fun mix of your X-Men, your Arthurian legend, your just kind of general smart people, because they also had like a huge like research development team. Like, how do we make swords but better?
Yeah, I think it was Alan Davis that drew it.
Yeah.
I'm not finding the exact panel, but I'm seeing tons of Alan Davis.
Well, if it's from Excalibur, then it's probably Alan Davis because he did like a fat chunk of that. Of every Excalibur run, Alan Davis always does a lot. I think he also did. I think it's somewhere in his contract that for each Excalibur run, he at least has to do 2 covers.
Really? Didn't they bring Excalibur back?
Yeah, it's they've had several runs with it, and it's come back again with the Powers of X relaunch for X-Men.
I did like that.
Yeah.
So explain. Okay, so I missed something. Betsy Braddock is Captain Britain now. So
yes, because I think
she split from Psylocke, so Psylocke was her own character.
Yes.
Like, how did that happen? I missed that.
Yeah, so I think with I can't remember if her brother either died or had to go do more multiverse shenanigans. But so now with X of Swords coming up, I think they just thought it made more sense for her to already be an integrated mutant to be the one that wields Excalibur doing the whole mutants with sword storyline, as opposed to having to bring Captain Britain into what's supposed to be a mutant-centric story.
Which makes sense, because I remember, like, when they first, introduced Betsy Braddock, like one of her first costumes was like this cloak and this like chainmail, like this suit of armor.
Yeah.
They wanted to protect her on the battlefield. So yeah, I thought I like her costume in the. My friend loaned me a bunch of the House of X or the Hickman run.
Yeah.
And I read some of it, and so, again, some I liked, some I didn't. I'm Mr. I grew up with the Claremont. So,
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm like, he did some cool things, and like there's some other. I was not a big fan that they made Maury McTaggart a mutant. I just didn't like that. I don't know why. That was not my. I was just like, no, because they always had the human allies, and it's like she was one of the big ones. When they made her a mutant, I'm like, dude, you're killing me. They can at least have one just human ally.
That whole story hinged on her being.
I kind of liked it because up until that point, her existence was to kiss Xavier and then die. I felt like it gave her a little more agency.
They could have done more with her. I mean, I like the fact that she was a scientist researching.
Yeah.
Was she supposed to be the mother of Legion?
Wasn't
we have Legion with her?
I believe that's theorized, but I don't know if we canonically know Legion's mom. Yeah. I'll have to do some digging on that. Tommy in the chat says, love the art, Quentin, looking good.
Thank you. Yeah, this has been last few pages been pretty heavy because of all the armies and destruction and so
blowing up stuff.
Yeah, blowing up a city here. If
why would you go and do something like that? That's dumb.
Yeah. Well, there's some aggravated people, Yeah. They're all meeting in the square here. Look, they're like, we won't lower taxes. And this guy that you have over us, we just, anyway, I won't get into all that. But anyway, they're all upset. And then they're like, we're going to start blowing stuff up if you don't meet our demands. And then boom.
I just like the fact that your one of your hands is giving the peace sign.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. And then I see the metal horns. That's proper.
There's the thumb.
Yep.
Do we have a shotgun there anywhere?
Thumbs up back there. That's pretty good.
And Tifa flag. Hey. But yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's going down. It's starting to really go off right here.
And this is the 4th issue, or the 3rd one.
3rd, yeah.
3rd, that's right.
Pete got the good one. Way go, Pete. You got all the really big, intense battles and destruction and all that. I'm just kind of seeing the first parts of it and doing the first parts of it. But he's like doing all the really, really intense fight scenes, battle scenes.
So
hats off to you, Pete.
Would any of you guys like to write a patriotic hero? I mean, do you have any stories for like making your own or wanting to write one?
I'm not as like a forefront. Willard is just kind of, and Wolfhorn he's British, but the Britishisms and just being very British is more of like a backdrop. I like the idea of like, having that conviction as a character motivation, but not necessarily as being so centric that they throw it on their chest.
Yeah, I mean, again, somebody was reviewing some new Captain America comic, and he was like disillusioned about being Captain America, and I was like, you guys have got to start developing some other storylines than Captain America being disillusioned. I mean, that's done.
Yes. I mean, I think the storyline that probably did that the best would have been like Secret Empire, because it's literally Captain America versus Captain America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was the USA agent?
And I would think by now, out of his how many years, he would have worked this thing out by now. I mean,
he would have.
I mean, I think he would have came to terms with it or quit by now.
Yeah.
That's just me. I don't know.
Yeah.
U.S. agent was John Walker. When Cap died, he was their attempt to essentially create a new Cap, but with and it went about as well as you can imagine. Where then actually the two should have pretty good. job with it. Where it was, I think it was actually Bucky who then essentially like took the shield back. He's like, "No, you're bad. Give me the shield back. I'll become Captain America now." And then
Yep.
Bucky was Cap, and then Falcon became Cap together, and then Cap came back, and he had the era of 3 Caps, which was actually a lot of fun because you just had 3 Captain Americas doing stuff. And then I think that's also when they introduced Free Spirit and Jack Flag, so you had 5 people clad in the red, white, and blue, just doing stuff all in the same like issue.
Yep.
Yeah, I think aren't they kind of trying to redo
Then they made him Hydra.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
So that was Secret Empire where they did the real Cap, not Cap storyline where he had real Cap being like, "Hey, you're me, but you're all the bad parts of me, like, and I'm what America really is," and Bad Cap was like, "No, I'm what America could be," and Tony is a robot.
Yep.
I don't know. I strangely enough, I do have a really weird Captain America story in my head, but I don't know if it's something that Marvel would never do, and not that I would ever.
They'll probably do it, Aaron. They'll probably do it.
Not this one because I actually
I wonder sometimes about their, some of their creative teams. Like, dude, what are you thinking? But
basically, and I thought this story years ago because I don't know why this even image came in, but it was an image of Captain America fighting some villain, and like some kids start watching the battle because it's Captain America, and like he throws the shield and like either the villain deflects it, or I don't think so. I think Captain America throws it and hits it wrong where it actually goes and like actually decapitates one of the kids. The shield does, and I wanted to write about the court case of like his responsibility of like. Manslaughter. And so I don't even know if it even connects with Captain America per se. It was just the idea of like if a superhero screwed up, it's like, oh my god,
Yeah.
And I don't even know. But just the horrification that, did he mean to do it or not?
Mm-hmm. Well, didn't they kind of do something like that with the Parker Industries with where essentially they had some sort of like tech malpractice suit against Peter Parker. Like it's like you have responsibilities both as a superhero as well as like the head of this big R&D firm.
Yeah, because I remember he eventually became head of
the Juggernaut as well, right?
Yeah.
Tried to hold him liable for all of his stuff that he did.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know. It was a weird captain. I don't know if I could really write like a super patriotic story, but I just kept thinking of that shield. I'm like, what if that shield got away and did something like that?
Well, I like patriotic stories. There's a lot of room for them to do a lot of crazy stuff like they like to do, like very cynical stuff, and that's when I don't like it. I like...
Oh, you guys froze up on me, so I think I need to restart the Discord. Thank you, Discord.
That'll teach us.
I think we lost our host.
I the funny thing is, I'm going to ask is I just assume this has been done. I just haven't read it. But have they ever done a story Captain America time travels to the Revolutionary War or anything?
I don't know.
It seems like that would be a no-brainer. Like actually go through American history.
Well, I don't know anything hardly aside from Justice League. I'm very deficient in my DC knowledge. If it's what patriotic heroes are there in DC?
Yeah, I think the equivalent. I literally think the equivalent of Captain America in DC is Superman.
Superman.
Yeah.
Truth, justice, and the American way.
I mean, I mean, even his,
You mean the old Superman?
Yeah. True justice and the American way was like his sort of thing. So it was almost a patriotic hero without wearing the flag on your chest. Because I'm trying to think of any other country type hero or whatever, and I can't think of any. The only other one Strangely enough, Wonder Woman's the one that actually wears the
Yeah.
American flag on her old costume, but she's not connected to America in any way to being an ambassador.
She's technically Greek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was always kind of like, and they've toned that a lot in the new costume.
Mhm.
And when I read George Perez's run of Wonder Woman, he had actually a pretty interesting way of explaining why she had that costume.
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, that's kind of, it was like an American female pilot crash landed on the island, and they were trying to, like, the Amazons were on the island to stop these like creatures getting out from Hades, or like this under that huge door is locked, and one of the Hecatishears, I think is the name, the 100-handed beast, was getting out, and the Amazons are trying to stop it, and the lady crash landed on the island just happened during that battle, and she helped the Amazons secure that creature. And it was like the Amazons were so taken aback at her like selflessness that this stranger would help them, at that they tore off the American flag off her military uniform and used that to make the Wonder Woman costume in honor of this great warrior. And I'm like, okay, I can kind of see this sort of weird roundabout way he did that. Okay.
And
yeah.
no, Tommy, the hurricane did not hit. We just had a weird hiccup in the connection.
Really? So now we're off the air?
We were for like a hot second, but we're still good. Yep.
Well, that means they missed the whole part. The whole part. If you become a Patreon member, though, you will have that footage available to you.
Have that footage back.
We get that all purpose
Yep.
for our Patreon members. Well, I don't know of any besides Superman and the DC, but I'm just, I always highlighted DC, like whatever highlight title that they were doing, aside from the death of Superman.
Mhm.
So I don't really, I don't really
Yeah.
know of any besides Superman.
Even Superman, I feel like the most like country specific he got. I would even say it was maybe Superman Red Sun, where he actually wore the like the Soviet flag as part of his uniform with in the storyline where he crashed in Moscow instead of in Kansas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have not seen that story, but I have seen a lot of the stuff around it, and I've also seen the figure. The figure looks really awesome.
Yeah, it's a good time. It's fun. All right, it is about the midway point, so we
Wait.
Whoop. Whoop.
Sorry, Tim. In all the Marvel superhero talk, we forgot about the most important and the most patriotic of all of the comic heroes in comic history. Anybody know? G.I. Joe.
Oh yeah.
G.I. Joe, Sergeant Rock.
Yeah.
Man, those are awesome.
Yeah.
G.I. Joe just won't die.
They will not.
Primarily created by Marvel. They created a lot of those characters.
Yeah.
Yep. Hasbro went to Marvel, said, "Hey, we got these toys. We need some stories."
Yeah.
And boom.
And it has not stopped.
Yes, here we are. Just like Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
They come up, they reboot them about every 5 years, 6 years.
Yep. Joe Turtles, Transformers is also in that same boat.
I'm just glad they're going a little bit more, anyway, I just had to mention them because when I was a kid, G.I. Joe was the thing.
Yeah.
G.I. Joe. And even now that they went into the 6-inch figures, I've been collecting some of those when I can get them. But also, there is a guy, he is an independent guy who worked for Hasbro. Maybe y'all have heard of him. His name is Bobby Valla. And while we were reading G.I. Joe over here, over in the UK, they were reading Action Force, which was G.I. Joe rebranded for overseas.
Yes.
And he was able to, because they had left the license, he was able to secure the license in America. So he has his own figure line coming out right now. You can pre-order them, called Action Force Valiverse. So he's got some. Of course, he couldn't take any of the copyrighted or trademark characters that they did, like Baron Iron Blood and all those others. But he has his own characters. So he's got his own comic going. He's like on issue number 6. Um, so yeah,
I
there's
remember seeing a video on that guy. I can't remember where I saw the video where he was showing some of
the figures are awesome.
preliminary figures. He had just like put something together. They weren't painted, but some of them
Well,
were
like
really amazing.
these figures, and let me grab one here. If you notice on the Red Hulk here, you notice he's got. You know what? I picked one. He's not a good one, but you see how they've got pins. I don't know
Yeah.
if you can see. His is all pinless, and most of the time they have pins right here, but on the bigger characters they don't. Let me see if I can see one that does. Yeah, here we go. Crossbones.
Oh,
See how they
yeah.
have pins? His don't have pins.
Huh.
He is really taking it to the next level. He's doing a lot of stuff with his that. Whoa, the camera gonna focus now? Yeah. But anyway, I had to throw that out there because G.I. Joe's like G.I. Joe led me to Secret Wars, and then from Secret Wars, Heroes.
Yep.
So had to throw them out there. Patriot as it gets.
There we go. Oh. I got first introduced through X-Force, so I always kind of like the idea of Heroes more as mercenaries, like, or even Solid Snake and Metal Gear Solid.
Yes.
the idea of
Yes.
the idea of justice without necessarily being loyalty and one power. So I don't know, but I mean, to each their own, and that's what makes comics great. If you
I
want,
would have to say though, G.I. Joe wouldn't have ever been what it was without Cobra.
no, yeah,
No, it won't.
no.
That was everybody liked Cobra because all the Cobra stuff was the coolest stuff.
That's the
Yeah, they had the best.
If you're a bad guy by default, you look cool. And then if you're in a cartoon, you get voiced by some
Don Johnson.
John Johnson's
or-
interesting takes.
Yeah.
Cobra Commander. All right. So we're going to cut to our second hour. We're going to hit our sponsors: History Camp America, July 10th, 2021, and History List, as well as Daytona Beach Comic Convention, DaytonaBeachComicConvention.com. And the second bit, we're going to be talking a bit more about the craft of making comics. This week, we are talking about tempo, pacing, the speed at which we create, how we figure out what works best for us, going too fast, going too slow. It's kind of wherever our conversation leads, as this is the Diatribe show. I know for me personally, I have found a balance between... I burned out myself super hard when I first got into writing. Just nonstop. In the back of a coffee shop, cranking out manuscripts for, an additional 20 hours a week on top of working. Bounced it out a little better. Still have my marathons when I can get them, though. But not every day in a week. But still try to find a solid pace of, if I'm getting scripts done, try to get a script done like in a week and a half. So I'll can open up if anyone has an idea of generally how fast you work or how you came to find what speed works best for you.
I can say that when it comes to writing, because I also do writing is harder than drawing to me. Storyboarding, writing storyboarding, because then I have to think about it. When I actually get to draw the pages, then I'm just basically going through and just doing the work. I pretty much work every day on my stuff, but I will say that when it comes to writing things, I slow down a little bit because it's like, again, you're generating ideas and
Mm-hmm.
you can't, you know, generate, imagination on command. I mean, it's like you have to kind of like go
Yeah.
do other stuff, whatever. And so that sometimes slows me down. But you know, I have to usually take breaks to kind of let everything kind of go in my head. But if I'm just like drawing or generating a page, that's just pretty much like just work, just moving a pencil. So
Uh, well, I try to work as fast as I can, but I couldn't really tell you how fast or slow. I try to do what I can, and it has to, I mean, I will stay up, especially when I'm excited about something. Like I'm excited about this. I will stay up hours and hours, and I'm still trying to find that medium of how much force to put into stuff,
Mm-hmm.
because I just get excited and man, I get set down here and I can't get away. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it just hours go by and it's like I don't even realize it. Uh, so I have to be really careful because it literally gets into the wee hours of the morning
yeah,
and longer sometimes. So I just now for a while back, as probably about it's been a year now. Some of y'all know this, but I had carpal tunnel, like really, really,
yeah,
really, really bad,
Yeah.
and it developed over the course of about 13 years.
yeah. I remember you talking about
I
that.
really, really had to pace myself, um, because I could only do so much at a time,
Yeah.
and it would kill me and even drawing was painful. So for the last 10 years has been, trying to do a lot, but really just being like, you know, just really drawing myself to the point where I couldn't do anything else. And so now that I've had the surgery, I'm able to work longer at a time. So now I'm not. So now I'm kind of finding it,
Yeah.
kind of finding my tempo. And so far, it's just been taking 3 nights out and just really hitting it hard and long, whereas before it would have been a little bit every day, just a little bit, just so I could get to where I can get now in shorter periods. So yeah, I'm still figuring it out. uh, as far as writing, I haven't really done any writing like you, Tim, or Aaron. I mean, I did some writing for my board game. I did produce a book back in 2010, and it all just flowed because I was thinking about it all the time. So by the time I would get it down on paper, I wouldn't have to. I was doing the art, so I didn't really have to worry about a lot of. Even though I taught English, I really didn't have to worry about going back and proofing it and making sure that it was grammatically superb. You know, I mean, I would get through my first draft and second draft, but that's all I'd have to do. That was just for story and plot holes,
Right.
and
Yeah.
but grammatically, it didn't have to be pretty because I was the one doing it. So,
Yeah.
you know,
That's. I mean that's also the nice thing about working with a team or with, especially in comics, is that my third draft I do a little bit of grammatical touch up, but I got an editor for that, man.
yeah, yeah,
and, and also with I mean, as long as the artist can understand what I'm saying, a dialogue can be fixed at pretty much any point. So
Well, because that was the way it was, I wasn't really looking for any kind of teams,
yeah.
and I was doing everything by myself because I couldn't be held to like a deadline. I couldn't be
Mm,
held because
yeah.
I just do the work when I can, so let me tell you, working with a team is so much better though because it improves everything because you have more eyes
Yeah.
on everything, and feedback and all
Yeah.
that. So I definitely think, if you're doing something, you should have at least somebody in there, even if they have no talent, if they can read,
Yeah. If someone
you know,
if someone appreciates the style of story that you're telling, like they can tell you like, oh, I've read this before, or this isn't great, or I like this, or they might even one of the best bits of feedback I got from someone on and informed a lot of decisions going into the rest of Wolf Hunter was when they alpha read the first issue. They're it's like, oh, this reminds me of a John le Carre novel. It's not like your typical spy action stuff. So back in, I read a bunch of John le Carre going into the second and third issues, and that helped inform a lot of the story decisions. Just grabbing that bit of intake, but having any sort of eyes on something, I think it does help with your tempo and your pacing, because not you're excited to get whatever's next into the hands of your alpha reader or your editor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have to say something else too. Sometimes it's better for you to have somebody who is not involved in it in a professional manner, because they represent your reading audience, a lot of them. And so, like my wife, whenever I show her my stuff, she has many talents, but one is not drawing or writing. I show her my stuff, and immediately, a little bit too busy. I can't really tell what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
she'll give me feedback, and I take her feedback as being somebody, regular Joe in a comic shop or whatever, looking at it and saying, it's a little, that's how I take her. So they don't have to be a professional.
Yeah.
You show them your stuff. So there's value to that.
But there should be someone who's not afraid to tell you, hey, this is too busy, or hey, this doesn't work the way it should.
Yeah, and my wife is not afraid to tell me.
Your comic stuff, the non-comic readers a little bit, because if they can't see it, then
Yeah.
Yeah, and my thing is, usually, if she has to ask me, this is another thing that I look for whenever she's looking at something, or I show it to somebody and they're looking at something, they say, well, what is this right here? Right there, that's a red flag. They don't have to say anything, because they pointed something out. Depending on what their next words are, already, to me, it's a fail, because you pointed out, you noticed it took you out of what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So...
Yeah.
So that right there is something that I need to make a note of.
It's weird. And that I've done that. I've had weird experiences where I've had people read my stories multiple times, and people point out different things every time. Like, I'm like, can you see this? And like, somebody else may have a problem seeing something. Oh, I can totally see it fine. I can't see this. Somebody else will see that fine. And so I'm like, okay. I'm like gonna be running in circles if I do this. So it's kind of like I have the like if somebody continuously repeats, I can't figure this out, and that's multiple times. Okay, yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, I started changing when people say it, and then I'm like, okay, wait a minute, is it just you or yeah?
Yeah.
So.
I feel like
yeah, man, we get to doing this stuff, and then you just get tunnel vision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what's going on, and you know what's going to happen. You get tunnel vision, and it really helps to have that outside. Person.
I feel like a terrible alpha because I've trained my brain on so much Hideo Kojima that I look for stuff that isn't necessarily there. Like, if it doesn't make sense, I assume that's intentional.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do feel like depending on the type of person, I know we already kind of talked about this, but if you're a person that has shiny new syndrome, where you have to jump to the new thing, you kind of lose track of the edits. Or if you're Aaron and you have the opposite of that, they can either slow down or speed up your edits. I have shiny new syndrome for sure, so
I do to a great extent. I had to be careful what kind of stuff I take in, because if it's something I'm really going to find cool, it might take my inspiration. And just. Yeah.
So I try to combat that by doing a ton of pre-writing, so I have a slower start, but I feel like that speeds up my back end a whole lot more than I spend.
Yeah, I used to be that way, and now I really try to. I try not to jump into too many new things, because then it'll distract you on what you're doing, and then of course, yeah, it's dangerous. I mean, you see something you like, you're gonna like, oh, I want to do that now, but it's like, yeah, but you got to finish. This is a problem most artists have: the idea of starting projects and not finishing them.
Yeah.
Well, mostly what I try to stay away from or I'm careful with is games.
Mhm.
That's why I have not played a game in the last, it's been a while. Besides Minecraft, because it's not, like engulfing.
Yeah.
Right.
So I try to be careful because I will so get into games if I'm around too much, and they just really suck your time away. They really do if you let them.
Yeah. I have to do a lot of really strong time management when I'm after a manuscript or a pitch has been picked up. If I'm now dedicating to finishing that run, I have to become a recluse for a little bit so I don't pick up anything new or get sucked in the most recent Souls game or
Yeah.
Paradox Shadow or something like that. Yeah.
Well, see, my issue with games is I am a gamer, but I'm not one of those gamers that plays like a lot of different games.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the kind that I will try games, and I have a rule to give every game at least an hour.
Yeah.
Because it's just a waste if I don't. I could be missing something because I have played games that I literally hated. The first 30 minutes and even 45 minutes, but then on the hour mark it was like, wow, this is actually pretty cool. Like Dark Souls, when I first played Dark Souls, and I so got into that game hard, and I was playing it every chance I could get, every chance. That's how I am. I don't buy a lot of games. I try a lot of games until I find that one that's going to take over my life and have everybody where's he at? He's playing Dark Souls.
Yeah.
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 It's funny. I've actually
He's on New
learned-
Game Plus
Yeah.
for the third time.
I've actually developed a way to play games and draw at the same time. And
You
it
are
just
good, sir.
What I would basically do is there's so many load screens, or if there's a cutscene, I would just draw during the cutscene of the load screen. Especially when I'm playing online with my friends, because they'd be like, I figure something, I do something, I'm sitting there bored, so I'm like, I just put my drawing stuff in front of me and just draw. I actually thumbnailed out 5 or 6 pages the last night I played games online with people.
Yeah.
And I've actually finished entire pages just playing video games and I'll pause it too. Like, I'll pause the game and draw for a few minutes, and then I'll go back and play and pause and back and yeah, I just use that.
And you are one of a kind, sir.
I have
Cannot do it.
I'm the only one that's been able to do this.
I've done something similar with, but it has to be with an MMO, like Destiny.
Yes, I could probably do it with an MMO.
With Destiny, we're like, we're sitting in a raid group and really like someone has to go like use a bathroom, or we're waiting for someone to ready up. So I'm just sitting there like going through my beat sheet or whatever, adding 3x5s to my corkboard.
Yeah. No, when I was playing DayZ, that would have never worked. It would have never flown.
Well, DayZ is a whole lot of, you feel like you have time, but really you're just in a cold sweat looking over your shoulder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Knowing that any second somebody could have you in their sights the whole time, just deciding, should I take this guy out? Does he have any loot?
Or you open a door to what you think is an abandoned hospital, and there's just this swarm of zombies inside of it.
Yeah, in Dark Souls, there is not much load screens.
Yeah.
There's not much. You just find a safe place, so you do it at a bonfire.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've noticed that it's also a good visual break for me. So if I play a game for like 10 minutes or whatever, look back at my drawing, I'm like, oh, that arm's wrong. Oh, that's not right.
Yeah.
It breaks my eye contact, and also just because like it'll inspire me. Games will inspire me to want to draw, so I use that in conjunction with it. Like, oh, that's cool, and then so I don't know, because I'm like, I would sit there, with watch how the TV on and draw, and I notice I just take lots of breaks
Mm-hmm.
and kind of sit there, and over time, because my hand and stuff is not really great, so I just take a lot of breaks. And so I'm like, well, why can't I just be doing something else with these breaks? And so I started doing that, and so far it's been going okay.
Yeah.
They can't be, super intense games. Most of the time, I usually do it with games I've played before.
Mm.
That way, I don't need to watch the cutscenes. Oh, okay, yeah, I've seen this.
Yep.
Um, but not all the time. I play online with my friends. Sometimes that doesn't always work. So, but yeah, that helps. I'm one of those people, like, I don't mind TV, but I just don't find a lot of stuff on television that interests me.
Yeah,
Um,
like the shows that really catch my attention are few and far between.
yeah, so a lot of the times I'm like, "Well, what do I do? Because I don't know, maybe it's just me, but when you're drawing, you kind of have, like, not when I'm writing, I have to have silence, but when I'm drawing, I usually like to have something to distract me, and so
Yeah.
I still do watch, like, old sitcoms all the time, like Cheers, and, like, Family Ties and other, and, like, news radio, just because I don't need to watch them. Star Trek Next Generation, Star Trek's great for that. You
Yeah.
don't need to watch Star Trek, you just need to listen to it.
Yeah.
You know what's going on. So,
Oh, I think Quentin is talking, but we're not getting audio.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, I can watch stuff like YouTube and certain stuff
Yeah.
like I've told y'all in the past. NCIS, I've watched that. That doesn't bother me, but I can't like turn on a full length movie. Um,
yeah.
Yeah.
I, Nothing that's gonna draw my gaze.
I watch a lot of dramas because of that. Anything that has action in it, like Marvel movies or
Mhm.
action movies, uh, especially if I've seen it, it's okay. But if I haven't seen it, I'm missing half the movie because I'm not watching it. So
Yeah.
dramas were great. This is why sitcoms were great, or like, hour-long dramas or stuff that I can just listen to.
Yeah, not stuff that is new. Like I can't watch stuff that's new.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, like Mandalorian or something. I couldn't watch that and
Wow.
draw. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
That's why I haven't actually watched the second season of The Mandalorian. Not because I'm not wanting to do it, just because I just get caught up in my work or whatever and
Yeah.
forget. You have to watch that show.
Mhm. Yeah.
So there's a few shows that I know that, and there's been some other shows that I have to, like, actually set aside time to
Yeah.
watch. So
Yeah. If I'm doing like a writing marathon, I'll try to schedule breaks in because it does like come back with fresh eyes and also breaks up the monotony. So I'm not writing the same sentence over and over again. Um. But I'll put on a lot of like 8-minute YouTube clips, like simple history or today.
Yep.
Today I found out are good ones. It's kind of weird because then also I try to pull on like real world inspiration for a lot of different elements of different stories. I mean, obviously I'm writing historical fiction now, but even for like my higher concept stuff, like my Roman space god thing, I pulled a lot on different events or philosophies and try to make their analogs in this weird sci-fantasy setting.
yeah,
Yeah. Documentaries do me a lot of good too. I like documentaries.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, because it's mostly just interviews with people.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
I get on kicks too. Go from history stuff to actual crime
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Those are the times usually when I start getting a little freaked out by people because they talk about people who get killed. It's like we never even knew.
Yeah.
He was the nicest guy in our neighborhood, and I'm like looking at everybody.
Yeah.
After
So-
that.
Hey neighbor on a bar mower, you're gonna murder me, aren't you?
Yeah. I just think of the guy sitting in the room with the camera on him. Yeah, he asked to borrow that guy's mower, and he just went nuts with a hammer.
That'll teach him to ask.
Yeah.
Yep. So, what do you guys think is probably in your processes, your fastest or your slowest part of drawing or creativity in general?
Oh my gosh, layouts.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Thumbnails and layouts. Once it's done, the layouts are done, just like Quentin. Then it's
Yeah.
just like going to town. But yeah, figuring out layouts is
Yeah.
done. That is the one portion that I will actually procrastinate on. I know it's not good, but don't procrastinate long. But I have to do layouts. I'm like, I'm not gonna do
I will
something.
tell you what my process is, because the way Roland writes, and is he doesn't say this panel, this panel, this panel. He'll have like, this is going to be pages 10 through 14. So what I have to do is read through a couple times what he wants in those pages, and then I have to break it up into panels and pages. And usually what I do is I'll look for stopping points, and I will take that and I'll copy and paste it uh, into like panel 1. Then I'll take another one, I'll bring it down to panel 2. And I'll go all the way to panel 15, 16, whatever. And then I will have my pages set up, and I will put, okay, I want to have 4 panels or 5 panels this page, so many panels this page, so many panels this page. And then it comes the part, okay, what shots am I going to have for this? And how are they going to fit together? See, that's that's very technical. It's not, I wouldn't even say that's artistic. It's more of a professional side. It's more of a technical side of things. It's like doing a math problem, working stuff out, pacing it.
Yeah.
That is what's tough for me. Yeah.
Is this, is it reading too fast? Is it reading too slow? Is there another,
Yep.
panel you need to put in there to make it kind of, sell the experience or whatever? That's stuff that I've been working on with my own personal comic, is doing scenes of panel to panel, different, slowing things down. Like I've been doing stuff when people are talking. If there's a certain point somebody's made, I will interject a panel. The person just look like they're thinking or worried. Like I'll actually draw in a pause in the conversation to sort of slow it down, because that's how people like to stop. Like, this is stopping them. Okay, let me think about this. Things of that nature. But yeah, layouts are always like the one that I procrastinate.
Well, I think that's the art of the panel, the sequential work, is that's where it all is, right there.
Yeah. Yep.
And then you get to draw your pretty pictures after all that other stuff is done. Then you can have fun,
It separates your good artists from your good comic artists.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
I mean, it is not the longest, but for writing, it feels the same way. Where the longest is the pre-writing, the pre-planning. Obviously, it takes longer to actually write out 20,000 words. I write not like Roland. I do DC style scripts. I do full breakdown for panels. I think because I've heard I mean, each artist has their own preference, but I've heard stories like Quentin's where someone's just looking at like this breakdown, is like, the crap does this guy want me to do? And so I'm always a fan of the KISS method. Keep it stupid simple. These are our panels. These are what we're working with, and then we can jazz from there, and you can give me feedback on what you think actually does not work. But I mean, pre-planning for some people can take years, but it's actually like sitting down and thinking of, all right, what is the story horror's characters? What's their spines? What's their motivations? How does it play into our central plot? Is this already forming any natural themes that it can play with? What sort of motifs can I play with? And then doing all the BFA and writing things where you're looking for your mirror images and your straw analogs, or metaphor by design, although I think the strongest metaphor is by accident. I think it's also the curse of being a writer by trade, is you overthink the act of writing.
Yeah, I believe that.
I put in my writing that even in this story, my story Goblins, which I'm doing, it's a lot of philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I feel I'm heavy-handed with it, but I notice a lot of people just like, boop, don't care.
Yep.
Boop, don't care. You know, so I'm like, okay, so am I like again? Am I overthinking? Am I putting too much into people? Just like, yeah, this stuff happened. It was
Yeah.
cool, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
I mean, that's
People are very just
people want to read what they want to read, but like I have noticed that where you can straight just like reference Kant and a thing, and people are like, oh, but big explosion.
yeah. They don't reference like they don't see like, oh, just see this cool unique thing where I pulled these two elements together, think of this idea, and they're like, well, I saw the big laser gun. You know, and so I'm like, oh, okay.
Tight.
Yeah, sorry.
Tight.
It's so interesting though. You know, when I was younger, I would get comics and I would copy. Not really copy one for one, but I would be like, learning to draw, but looking at these comics, and I was really interested in the art and real art focused. But later, and especially now, I really, some find it a little weird, that I buy comics to study them. I want to study what these people do, and anybody who's in comics, they study them as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not just looking at art now. It's pleasing, but I want to see how they did these shots.
Yeah.
I want to see the angles. I want to see the composition of how they laid the boxes out and all that layout stuff that I'm going to be, dealing with at any given time. And comics is such a deep, deep art that it's one of those things that it's pleasing to look at on the surface of it, but then you start getting into that stuff, it gets deeper, and then the writing is a whole other realm, when you start picking that apart and really start looking how they pace stuff. And I think it's just the perfect way of art,
Yeah. I mean, there is something to talk about in college, which is, half of being a creative is being creative for other creative people. That a lot of what's going to happen is just going to be other writers or artists are going to be the ones who look at your stuff and actually go into the deepness of it, whereas your average audience goer is going to be, they're there because it's cool, and that's what got us into it in the first place. So heck yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But no, man, I mean anything like that like Rocky Kim did art on, or that's been written by James Tynion, I feel like is a spiritual experience. Yeah.
There's I think I buy comics more to strange thing I've been getting in. It's somewhat layout and stuff, but I've really been getting into the visual storytelling, how they break down the story, pacing, which is like the tempo, the pacing of the story is something I'm really focusing on.
Yeah.
And also, me and I have a friend Tom have talked many times about certain panels affect certain things. Like a lot of, like I'm doing like this sort of conversation, and I'm one of these people that I like conversations in comics. So this is actually like it's a 9-page conversation, which seems like a long time.
Yeah.
I'd like that sort of. I'd like that in comics. And so I thought, when I was laying it out, I was like, well, should I do these really extreme angles and stuff? And we've talked many times. It's like, well, no, the extreme angles usually instigate sort of an argument or force. So I try everything at like eye level. And I started noticing a lot of the comics like Bone did that.
Yeah.
They would do just conversations all at eye level. And I started noticing that what was working was like it took your mind off the art, put your mind back in the story, because it was just simple enough, straightforward enough. You weren't really worried about it, and so you would focus on the storytelling itself. And that's what I've been getting more focused into, is how these people tell the story, almost a little bit with like the simplest lines. I've noticed over the years, to me, simpler sometimes can be almost better. In a way, like that sort of, like you said, just keep it simple and stuff. But I'm really trying to play with that, where I'm just like, sometimes like, well, don't you want to do the cool pose or whatever? And I'm always like, yeah, but if it takes you out of the story, then to me, I would be no. But then I don't really draw a lot of superhero stuff anyway, so that could be also one of my things. But yeah, I've noticed that, and I've also really read a lot of independent comics to see all the experimentation people do, especially with art. I see people do entire comics with like fine arts, like watercolor paintings, really different mediums that I've never seen before. That I'm like, oh, this is really cool. So
I think it's interesting the product of comics as well, just because you've got someone is in the art of writing, and then their stuff goes to an artist, and the
yeah,
artist depicts what the writer wrote, and then of course, then they come in and put the letters and all that stuff, the story, and I think it's really interesting how that all meshes together in the end, and the artist can enjoy it like it's something new, and the writer can enjoy it like it's something new, because it is something they both really created
right,
in a sense,
Yeah.
So whenever I do my own stuff, it's all me, so I've already looked at it and pored over it 1,000 times. But when you get a group of people together and you see the colorists do their thing, you're like, wow, this is like seeing my art again, but for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Or when they ink it, or when they,
Yeah.
put the story to it, the bubbles.
Well, that's like being like doing a script first where seeing what AJ does in the pencils and then seeing what John does on the inks, and each time it blows my mind because it's the people have made my words but made them real, and it's so much better than what they thought they'd actually look like. It's nuts, and
I have had a few instances where people have drawn my stuff or gone over my stuff and kind of ruined it. So there's always that back. There was where this one guy painted this relatively detailed picture. I had of some like these robots, and he just did like a typical painting where you painted it all really black and focused on this one area. I'm like, yeah, but that detail is there for a reason. Like I didn't spend all those hours doing that. You just covered up. It's like, look at this. Like I understand the idea of a focal point.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, give me a break, dude. I'm one of those people, like, when it comes to focal points, because I know I've had, trouble with that. I don't like that cheat. They do this a lot where everything's dark and then they make one bright area to draw your eye.
Right.
A flashlight. I mean, come on, you can do better than that.
They don't do any sort of natural highlighting or even like.
Yeah.
I mean, a strong understanding of like the rule of thirds. I feel like good comic panels also make good use of the rule of thirds.
Yeah.
And that naturally kind of, especially also if you bring it together, the letter is also going to help bring the eye across where it needs to, without having to take away from any other, aspect of the art in the panel. If they can do a natural flow with the panels.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's kind of the one thing. Strangely enough, what do you guys think when it comes to flow about, like, do you like very crazy panel layout, like the 90s are classic with all these crazy panel edges, or do you like the more straightforward straight panel, like grid type stuff?
I think each has its place. I almost see like more grid type stuff fitting in more traditional, like, or not traditional, but like toned down stories or more slice of life stories where it's a lot of more emphasis on the characters themselves, and then you might do something unexpected every now and then to really draw emphasis to a moment. But as a whole, I do a lot of weird, almost psychedelic. I read a lot of weird psychedelic type stuff, or heroes, and I feel like with those, the more the experimental layouts, I feel like really can benefit it, where either you're allowing the action to help inform the technicals around it, so it feels like it's one cohesive moment. It's not moments dictated by the panel layout, or when you're doing something really psychedelic, it's you create the perception of reality and how it's supposed to be perceived or fragmented or um, analyzed. And so,
And I can see that working,
yeah.
especially what you're trying to get across. I can definitely see that. Um, have you guys ever read the comic called Electra Lives Again?
I don't think I have. I'm pretty sure I had an ex-girlfriend who did.
The dude, it's they did Lynn Varley and Frank Miller after Frank Miller did his Daredevil run, he did this sort of hardback book called Electra Lives Again.
Mm.
And I just, for some odd reason, I've had it for years, and then I took it out and looking at it. And that's when he started doing a lot of really experimentation
Yeah.
and panel. Like he would do these sort of, some pages was like these panels on the top, and then bottom of the page is just white.
Yeah.
Like he would do everything the top and the bottom. He would play with like getting certain emotions and stuff. Different weird layouts like that, which kind of what you're talking about. He's using the panels to create a mood.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's kind of interesting. Yeah.
Do you guys think?
Yeah, I think that's some next level stuff right there. Because sometimes you can get to doing that, and it gets confusing for the layman. And to be able to do that well, my hat's off to you, because sometimes people do it and they don't really do it well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I say if you can do it well, do it. It's very interesting. I like to see it, but
Yeah.
Do
you guys think that when you're working on a project, do you think that you can get through it? Do you think do you find it either quicker or I guess even just more enjoyable to not necessarily breeze through, but work through more traditional layouts or more traditional designs that you probably have more experience with, or do you find that you can attack something a bit more eagerly if it's something new and exciting that you haven't done before?
It's, I would say like it's the inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff I do for people, I try to stick with it. My own stuff, I've been experimenting a little bit with negative space in this, but I've learned that I don't experiment with that stuff unless it is telling the story.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people would do that stuff just because it looks cool, and I'm like, yeah, but then if you do it enough, just because you think it looks cool, then when you actually do it to invoke something, sometimes it can be lost because it's overdone.
Exactly.
So it should be something that I think should be drawn out when it needs to impact the story. But most of the time, I just kind of stick with that. I default back to the panel.
Mm-hmm.
Do the crazy panel. Just because I'm thinking more of like, and maybe this is this is like a fault on my end, but I keep thinking of like the panels almost like a camera.
Yeah.
Like how it's going to get the information. I'm not really thinking of the panel lens so much. I mean, like the lens, like the borders and stuff.
Yeah.
People do borders and stuff. And sometimes in the 90s it was cool, but I don't know. There was a part of me that sometimes I thought it looked messy. It just depended on the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, it diverts sometimes. That's what I was talking about, being able to do it well.
Yeah.
If you can do it without it diverting from if it adds, yes. If it's taking away, no. That's too much. So, I mean, kind of hard to say. It really depends on what I was working on and what my panel count is too. Because a lot of these really good pages that have all these cascading panels and all this stuff, you'll notice there's only 2 or 3 panels.
Mm-hmm.
And like, even a lot of the great ones too, this is one way that they like shirk having to do certain things on a page, like really zooming through a page is doing all this stuff. So, and they only have to do like three panels on the page, and then the rest of the page is like empty. It's black, or it's got some whatchamajiggers and whatchamacallits in the background and stuff. I think it's, what I'm dealing with here is Roland's writing, and it has to have the panels that it's got. So sometimes you just don't have the room, to be doing all that. Sometimes you do, but you really want to make sure you leave enough space. I don't know if I'm still streaming since we got cut off. Am I?
You're good. Yeah.
We could seriously.
You really have to put in, plenty of room for words.
Yeah.
That's another consideration. So I'm kind of, because I'm having to cram, I don't want it to look like it's crammed.
Mm-hmm.
But if I were to start tiling this stuff and moving it around and having, so if I had the freedom to have like 3 panels on this page, yeah, sure, I would do some pretty crazy stuff, but with 6 and 7 panels on some pages, that's just really tough to waste that space.
A lot of those panels, 6 or 7, are establishing shots. Some of the writers are just killing me. I'm like, if you're gonna do establishing shots, you kind of need to tone the panels down, because you just make the people microscopic.
Yeah.
Totally, because you see here, on this page, we're moving to a different location, so I have to have the location right here. This is the Heart Kingdom. I have to establish that. Okay, we're on the Diamonds battlefield. Now here we are. Just like in a show or whatever, you're showing the building that they're in, and then you may even show a long shot of them in the room, and then you see close-ups of them talking. But from the shots, now you see there's this, and then next down from there, you see that, they're on a balcony talking to all of this crowd of people. So I've this kind of a second establishing shot. And then you have like the meat here where he's actually talking, and there's a lot of stuff he's got to say. So there's that. And then, boom. And see, I could have actually went further with the setup of all this and done a much longer away shot. But then that gets into another thing, and that is I don't want to spend 10 years on this page.
Yeah.
with a down shot of the street, with the street going all the way back, and you seeing all these buildings before they get destroyed. So you have to kind of pick your battles on where you're gonna put your time in.
Yep.
So
this is, and a lot of pages. Sometimes people have like that sort of focus panel. I think the focus panel for you would be the third panel, the guy talking, just because most people are attracted to eyes, so that's what they're going to focus first. But yeah, it's hard because you have what, 1, 2, 3, 4. You have 5 panels on there.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, 5 panels. Yeah. And that's on this page. On the last page, let me see if I can pull that up. I know there's a few of them that have upwards of 5. Let's see. Okay, so there's this one. I see I did a little bit of crazy stuff here.
Yeah.
But, it takes a little time to figure it out. And again, you really have to be careful how you do this stuff. Let's see. Here's one.
Yeah. But he's the focal. He's the anchor image of the page.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're breaking the panel in a way that tells the story. It isn't just 2.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 panels there.
Right.
A lot of dialogue, a lot of talking. You can't really do a lot here besides overlap, folks. Maybe you could do some overlap in here and there, but there's just so much going on already. I didn't want to busy it up with, I didn't want to get the attention away from them discussing and their gestures. You see how this little skadooshia right here, Yeah. You want them to pay attention to the characters acting out their parts. I was really, really proud of this page. There's a lot here.
Yeah.
There is a lot here. And I was thinking of Pete the whole time, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm doing this, and he's on book number 4 just... I've got these guys advancing, and he's actually got them like really shooting each other and really going to town on each other. So Pete, you're the winner. You win, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, because this is the start of the big battle, which Pete is actually doing.
Yeah, up to this point, it's been Game of Thrones, and four is going to be which this is really getting into it. This is really getting into it. And it's really got a lot of action in it. But Pete's is going to be, it's really intense, really intense.
Yeah, I know. I almost feel like I can, if I'm attacking something that's a bit more unusual subject wise, I get a bit more excited about it, so I write quicker than if it's hitting something that's just kind of by rote. But it definitely has to be done. I have to make sure to do my time to make sure it's done well. It isn't just quirky for the sake of being quirky.
I tell you what else works good too is having a deadline of some sort.
Oh yeah.
Making sure that you have, like, even if it is you're doing something that's maybe a little loose on the deadline, make a deadline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Self-set deadlines are lifesavers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's, the education system has its own flaws, but the discipline with, like, you have a deadline to get it in. What happens if I don't? Nothing. You just have to. But that mental programming, I feel like it does a lot to help, encourage that process of just getting things done and making sure that it's, and finding your tempo to get it done at that time is, part of the process, but having that deadline is the single best way to force yourself to learn how you need to pace yourself.
Yeah, and the harder the deadline, I say, man, it's so good because sometimes you can really put out some super stuff. You wouldn't think so with a limited amount of time, but sometimes you really skip through a lot of the overthinking and rethinking and restructuring and well, this has got to work just like it is.
You spend your time doing the work that matters, not spending more time doing stuff that you
because you get to polishing on stuff sometimes. I am like the world's worst. I get to polishing something, and if you've been watching the stream at all, you'll notice that these lines over here, I just couldn't get them the way I wanted them, so I kept on redoing them over and over and over. And finally, I just left them and started working over here. But during a deadline, those go down however they go down, and that's it.
Yeah.
Boom, moving on.
What was that?
Strangely enough, I've noticed that. Do you think that is a little bit of danger with digital art? Is it so easy to erase you do your lines?
No, because I will tell you what's the bad thing about digital art is this right here. Zooming in.
Yeah.
See that right there? That right there will kill you, sir. That right there will keep you up at night.
And then I zoom in on something. I'm like, why does all my stuff look like crap now?
Just the parallax lines, yeah.
There's people I know that they will use this little box. I don't know if you can see my cursor.
Oh, yeah.
This little navigator over here. They set it to a certain distance, and they will not change it.
Yep.
And they draw everything just like that. And then after it's all done, they go out to, just like we used to do, putting the board on the floor because it's so big. You put the board on the floor and stand over it and look at it, or you go away and you come back and you look at it across the room just to make sure everything's posed right.
Yeah. Was it Babs Tarr, that one who did Batgirl and Batwoman? I think that's her. She's talking about she has to do like when she actually gets her computers, she says that she doesn't care about anything else. She just needs to see what the anti-aliasing is because she needs her things to look straight. Otherwise, she's going to get lost in it.
You'll notice too that I don't do a lot of anti-aliasing, and the reason I do that is it's kind of like something that I taught myself not to do. It looks better without it. I mean, with it, it's softer. But the reason I do this is because if I were to have to be the one to color this, it can help you out a lot, because like when you pick your paint bucket, you can actually color stuff and it would butt right up against it.
Yeah.
You know, whereas if it was soft, it would have like a halo,
Yeah.
you know, around the lines. And I hate it when that happens. But doing it like this, with no anti-aliasing, it goes right up to the edge.
Yeah.
See? Just a little personal thing I do there.
Yeah.
I haven't colored my own stuff in a while, though. So.
You're using Clip Studio, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
From my experience, I work on Photoshop every day. I work on Illustrator all day, every day, and to me, this one has just the most superior inking engine.
Oh, yeah.
By far.
I will color in Photoshop. All of my stuff is still done by hand. I'm still doing the old paper.
In the YouTube chat, Roland pops in and says, "I think I like a Silverline show on Tuesday for the title," and it's beginning to rub off on me too. Just a Silverline show on Tuesday.
What is it? What did he suggest?
A Silverline show on Tuesday, which has been our tentative name for the past couple of weeks, but
yeah, I think I like it too.
Yeah, we'd go with that.
So I guess Roland wins the new car.
Yeah. Roland, you get to buy yourself a new car.
He gets a little Matchbox car.
Yeah, exactly.
He gets to pick it out this time.
Yeah, he gets to pick out his own Hot Wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all right, well, it is actually about 9:57 on the West Coast, which means we're coming up on the 2-hour mark. So we're going to begin wrapping up our show for tonight. We spent the first hour talking about our patriotic heroes, which includes all of our different flagged captains, all the way from America to Britain to Canuck, and all the fun ones in between, like Red Guardian, Omega Red, the such. He actually is going car shopping tomorrow, so there you go. It works out.
There you go.
Yeah.
See?
And this last bit, we've been talking about tempo, but we kind of talked a lot about a lot of creative processes in general, including approaches to choosing.
I would like to say, though, everything I said is what I do.
Yes.
You do what you do. You do whatever works for you. This, some people might be hearing this and be like, "Man, that is terrible."
We're here to offer up guidelines. If you want to get an idea of what we do and you're just getting into it and like, oh, maybe we could start there, or just want to learn something new, or just see how we do it. But you're gonna find something that works for you. Everyone's gonna have different tempo and pacing. You might find that you meet your deadlines better with a few marathon sessions, or you may like it better with, like I do, where it's several smaller sessions stretched out over a longer period of time. Just
I do the smaller sessions. That's the way I work.
I will also say another plug for studio work or working with people is you pick up stuff off of them by being around them.
Yes.
So there's that.
Yeah. But of course, mileage may vary, void or prohibited. Use at your own risk.
Also, if you do anything that Quentin suggests, make sure you have parental supervision.
Yes.
Always important.
Yes. And if any prolonged side effects do occur, please contact a medical professional.
Yes. If you start doing digital and your eyes burn out of your head, or you start getting headaches or whatever, it's not our fault.
No. And drink some water, down some ibuprofen, or read a book for a little bit.
That's right.
Yeah. So we're going to be calling it here for tonight. So again, I was Tim TK, your host for the Silverline show on Tuesday. Wolf Hunter coming out later this year. And
yes.
Right now, we're watching artwork on Trump's, brought to you by Mr. Quentin Bedwell.
Yay!
Yay!
Yep. If you want to know where people can find you or what else I can look forward to.
Well, we have titles coming that are to be announced. You can find me on Facebook, on DeviantArt, MySpace. I'm about to do something with TikTok. I did make an account.
Yes.
So expect some good videos there, some gyration going on.
It's Quentin doing
No.
some trending dances. I'm into it.
No, no. So anyway, but yeah, just all around the internet, mostly Quentin Bedwell on Facebook though. So yeah, I'll be looking forward to hearing from you, and I pass it on.
All right. And we've had commentary and some great input from Aaron Humphrey as well. So why don't you tell us where people can find you?
You can find me on the Facebooks, Humphreys Illustration, Humphres, my last name. Aaron Humphreys. I have my own personal. Well, I pretty much post the same thing. Some things a little different. Instagram, ALH3810 is my handle. And then on Webtoons, you can find my Gollings, which I need to start posting here soon. I'm like literally caught up to where I'm making new stuff, so hopefully there'll be stuff coming soon.
Sweet.
I think that's most of where you can find me. And then you can find me on Silverline.
Yes. And you can find me on all the socials at TimTKWriter, on TikTok at TimDoesn'tTikTok, and on Twitch under the handle AgroBacon, where I stream Destiny and some model painting. And we are going to be ending our show here for tonight, but of course we will see you next Tuesday, where we will talk about some other things. And probably...
I'm not sure. We're figuring that out.
Yes. And until then, we hope you stop in for our Wednesday and Sunday shows. Oh, my OBS has crashed. Hopefully it is still broadcasting. If not, this could get weird. That's new.
Well, if you are still here,
If you're still listening.